Kogency Rocks channel. No, I don't know about RB7 or C2. I don't know about none of this. I'm gonna say Parcelo in the thumbnail, and Parcelo is fresh home. So I guess this is the Parcelo story of, how him end up in prison and maybe look a thing like that. So I want to find out.
Similarly to my last video, in this video we'll be traveling to the West Midlands, more specifically the city of Coventry, which is also a metropolitan borough. Coventry is located around 19 miles southeast of Birmingham, and is in fact the most central city in England. Coventry is actually the second biggest city in the West Midlands behind Birmingham, having a population of around 345,000 residents. This factor then made Coventry the 10th largest city in England as a whole. In a 2023 crime report on Coventry, Coventry was actually ranked as one of the safest cities in the West Midlands. In 2023, the overall crime rate in Coventry was 126 crimes per 1,000 people, which comes in 7% higher than the West Midlands crime rate of 118 crimes per 1,000 people. Even though Coventry was statistically rated as one of the safest cities in the West Midlands, what a lot of people don't know about is the long-running gang beef that has been playing out within the streets of Coventry, leading to the deaths of multiple people. This being the gang war between both RB7 and C2. Now, the RB7 gang is based around the Holbrooks, Kersley Heath, and Radford areas within Coventry. More specifically, the gang takes up the CV6 postcode. RB7 is very closely aligned with another gang based around the CV6 postcode known as 6, with these two gangs having the same rivals and often sharing members. Both the RB7 gang and the 6 gang are also affiliated with another local street gang. This gang is known as F Block and is based around the Foles Hill area, once again being in the CV6 postcode. Prominent rappers from the RB7 gang include Parcelo and Realist Jojo, whilst the most well-known rappers
That's
from
why
the
I'm
6
here,
gang
for Parcelo.
That's
the only reason why I'm here.
In recent years, these gangs have gotten themselves into a deadly rivalry with two street gangs that are based only streets away. These gangs being both C2 and C3. C2 is a large street crew based around the Wood End, Manor Farm, and Henley Green areas of Coventry, all based in and around the CV2 postcode. It's believed that the C2 gang also goes by STK, possibly being an acronym for Shoot to Kill and Stab to Kill. This STK gang actually has territory around CV4 or Canley. However, I'll get into that later in the video. Another gang closely aligned with the C2 gang is that of C3. C3 is a large street gang that is based around the Stoke Aldermore, Willenhall, Binley, and Ernsford area of Coventry. More specifically, however, the CV3 postcode. This C3 gang is closely aligned with C2 and has a rivalry with the RB7 gang and the 6 gang. So for simplicity's sake, the gang war I'll be discussing is that of the RB7 gang and the 6 gang versus C2 and C3. Now, you may be confused as to how teenagers from both areas have come to have a deadly rivalry with one another, resulting in shootings and stabbings becoming a normal occurrence in Coventry.
I know how it happens
Well, it's believed that the rivalry between RB7 and C2 started around 2016, with it being rumored that the gangs that had a rivalry were that of CV6 and 2 block from CV2. It's also important to note that some C2 and C3 olders repped both P1 and Gridlock, which were older gangs. It's believed, however, that the olders either jumped off road or got locked up, thus leading to the youngers taking over and beginning to rival RB7, as well as other gangs from the CV6 postcode. It was rumored that young members of RB7 began to have beef with 2 block olders around 2016 and 17, leading to a lot of drug dealers in the CV6 area beginning to rep RB7, which by this point was one of the biggest gangs in the entirety of Coventry, supposedly having around 100 members. Around 2018, however, RB7 gang members linked up with CV6 gang members, who by this point were going by 6, this gang already having beef with C2. Both 6 and RB7 also had beef with gang members from the CV3 postcode, leading to the CV3 gang becoming allied with C2 and creating the C2/C3 alliance. Now, originally the beef consisted of young members getting into fistfights with opposing gang members. However, this would all change following the murder of a 16-year-old, turning this gang feud into an all-out war.
Damn.
On the 24th of November 2018, 16-year-old Jaden James, also known as JJ, would be walking with friends in Wood End, which was C2 territory. Whilst he was out with friends, 2 members of the RB7 gang, known as FK and Abs, armed themselves with knives and drove around C2 territory looking for rivals. The 2 RB7 gang members noticed JJ and jumped out of the car on him, chasing him on foot for a few minutes. Sadly, however, JJ came to a dead end, although despite his attempts at fleeing his attackers. By this point, however, the 2 attackers had caught up and stabbed him in the back with a large zombie knife. Both Abs and FK quickly fled the scene, with emergency services being called to the scene. JJ was rushed to hospital, but sadly was pronounced dead days later, leading to a murder investigation being launched. Now, it's believed that JJ was not in fact a gang member, but did live in C2 territory and knew a few people that were involved in the local gangs. Rest in peace, Jaden James, or JJ. Following his death, members of the C2 and C3 gang would be quick to find out who had killed JJ and looked for retaliation. Days after the shooting, Abs from RB7, who was one of JJ's killers, was shot in the leg, as well as FK, whose mum was shot at by alleged C2 or C3 gang members. Both of these incidents were later rapped about in unreleased C2 and C3 songs.
Backgrounds. I know talk about Abs a madman, and I swear got rapped and crashed at. And FK needs to allow that verbal. I swear that his mum got slapped at. And Tyree needs to allow.
Luckily, however, FK's mum was not hit in the shooting. Police also began to investigate the shocking crime, and days following JJ's death, both of his killers were arrested and charged for the murder. In the end, following a 6-week trial, both FK and Abs were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of both 23 years and 17 years. Rest in peace, JJ. Following JJ's tragic death, many people began to pay their tributes to him. In February 2019, Young Tugs released a tribute track to JJ titled Rest in Peace, JJ. This music video was recorded at his memorial and showed hundreds of people remembering him. This song actually gained a lot of attention, currently sitting on around 150,000 views. Rest in peace, Jaden. Now, a lot of get-back attacks happened around this time. However, most of the incidents never reached the news, whilst the beef was getting active on one side of Coventry. On the complete opposite, the beef between the C2 allied gang based around CV4, which also goes by STK, and another gang also based in CV4 known as Tile Hill was heating up, and it would only be a matter of days before someone would be killed as a result of the beef.
What?
On the 12th of June 2019, Enroy Ruddock from the STK Canley gang would notice rivals from the Tile Hill gang that had supposedly driven around the Canley area in a car. Upon noticing this, Enroy Ruddock and his associates of the Canley gang set fire to the car driven by the supposed rival Tile Hill members. Luckily, no one was injured. However, a few hours later at around 2 p.m., Enroy Ruddock and other associates of the Canley gang were driving around in a blue van when they noticed 2 rival Tile Hill members chasing them into a shop before the Canley members then decided to leave the shop moments later. Enroy Ruddock and the other Canley gang members then noticed 21-year-old Emmanuel Lukenga, who was known as Manny. It's believed that Manny was in that car that was seen circling Canley territory hours earlier before it was set alight. Anyways, upon seeing Manny, the Canley members got back in the blue van, in which they started driving around following him. After a few minutes, Manny was cornered in a garden and was stabbed once in the buttock, severing a vital artery. Manny sadly died on the scene only minutes later.
I remember this was on like some CCTV compilation back in the day. I remember this.
Yes. The attackers are seen fleeing on nearby CCTV, in which you can actually see the knife used to kill Manny in Enroy Ruddock's hand. And only an hour later, Enroy Ruddock made a post on social media in which he rapped the line,
Should have seen that away that I quest him, man. I weren't shocked that all of his brethren left him.
I'm sure if you are a UK drill listener, you would be quick to notice that this is a line rapped by Tion Wayne on the popular song Keisha and Becky, featuring Tion Wayne and Russ Millions. Something I've never seen before was that CCTV actually caught Enroy Ruddock recording the Snapchat, this being something further used in court. It's believed that the knife was later recovered by police, leading to the arrests of Enroy Ruddock and the other associates. And in the end, Enroy Ruddock was found guilty of murder. Bradley Richardson was found guilty of murder. Matthew Branken was found guilty of murder. And Kyle Kinchin was found guilty of arson. Rest in peace, Emmanuel Lukenga, or Manny. Now, it's not known if Manny was involved in any street politics, with some people claiming he was a civilian and some people saying otherwise. Either way, rest in peace, Manny. It's believed that the death of Manny resulted in a lot of Canley members being arrested, as they were supposedly applying pressure to Tile Hill after Manny's death. Although, like other rivalries in Coventry, this beef isn't as active anymore. A few months following the death of Manny, a young rapper hailing from the RB7 crew, known under the name Pa Salou, began to release music, releasing the track titled Dem a Lie in August 2019. This gaining around 1 million views, just showing the potential that Pa Salou had as a UK rapper. Under 2 months following this, however, Pa Salou would be shot in the head, narrowly dodging death. In October 2019, Pa Salou was shot in the head by alleged rivals. Whilst outside of a pub in Coventry, he sustained wounds to the head and was rushed to hospital, along with another man who was hit in the arm. Around 19 pieces of bullet was later recovered from Pa Salou's head. Luckily, however, both men went on to survive the shooting, with Pa Salou taking to social media and writing, "You can't defeat a man with pure energies." He later talked
With
about the
pure
shooting, in which he spoke
energies.
about getting straight back into music following the shooting, recording the music video to his hit track titled Frontline, only a few
Frontline.
weeks following the near-fatal shooting. Sadly,
Yeah,
however, the war in
6.7
Coventry
million
was still
views,
continuing, and only 2 months following the release of Pa Salou's breakout track Frontline in March 2020, another man was killed as a supposed retaliation attack. On the 13th of March 2020, 2 members of the C2 gang, one being a 15-year-old known as Riaz Ahmed, and the other one being a 20-year-old known as Karan Monga, would arm themselves with a shotgun and would be observed on CCTV driving around Hillfields, which was known to be RB7 territory. It's believed that around this time, Abdul Hassan, who was known as A, or Abs, was walking home. It's believed Abs was associated with the RB7 gang, and even featured in a music video uploaded by an RB7 rapper known as Realist Jojo.
Oh,
He was noticed by the
wow.
15-year-old C2 member who was driving the car. 20-year-old Karan Monga was sitting in the passenger of the car. He then aimed a shotgun toward Abs, who was walking down Harnell Lane. The shotgun was shot once, with Abs being hit in the back. Both attackers then speeding off in the car following the shooting. Sadly, Abdul was pronounced dead shortly after the murder, with a murder investigation then being launched. However, finding the attackers wasn't going to be difficult for West Midlands police, as both the 15-year-old as well as the 20-year-old were on tag, meaning they had ankle bracelets tracking them to the street that the murder had occurred.
Like,
Police
that makes
also extracted
no
forensic
sense.
evidence that tied them to the crime scene, thus leading to both arrests occurring 1 day later, which was all caught on a body cam from one of the officers.
Walk slowly towards me. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Turn around. Keep your hands up.
Both Karan Monga and Riaz Ahmed would be charged and found guilty of the murder, and in the end, Riaz was given 18 years, whilst Karan was given 27 years. A third man was then jailed for torching the car used in the murder, with this also being caught on a nearby CCTV, which just shows how much surveillance a city like Coventry has.
You
Rest
see
in
me?
peace, Abs, or
Everything is
Abdul. Now,
recorded.
not much is known about the beef between RB7 and C2 after his death, with it being thought that the beef somewhat died out following the death of Abs, as members on both sides began to get arrested or just jumped off-road. What is known is that some shootings and stabbings did occur following this, but weren't reported, instead being talked about in drill tracks. If you have learned anything from this video, make
That's
sure
it?
it's to stay out of the streets, as this
This one was a short one. Oh, 11 minutes, yeah. It was a quick little one still. But, alright. Now I learned that Pa Salou is from RB7. That's really all I came here for. To learn where Pa Salou was from. I thought he was going to tell the story about the brawl that he had where his friend got stabbed. Maybe that was gang related, I don't know. But I guess not. So, I like this. You don't know, big up UK drill plug. And let's jump into the comments. Let's go.